When a patient is satisfied and does preparatory sets with good quality, then we develop with him the pull-out. And we can say that about 50% of our patients, they use the pull-out before it is explained by the therapist. Because a patient who is good in preparatory set, he knows if I come into a stuttering event and I cannot use a preparatory set, I just can stop within the stuttering event and then wait a little bit and then do a preparatory set. And when I explain my patients the procedure of the pull-out, they always say, "Why do you tell me? Didn't you say that I did it in the last weeks?" And I said, "Yes, I recognize that, but I have to explain the procedure of the pull-out and the theory that's behind it." So the pull-out has 3 parts. The first part is the most easiest one. A patient has to perceive very quickly that he is within a stuttering event. Most of the patients, after 1 or 2 seconds, they recognize I stuck within a stuttering event. I stuck within a repetition, a prolongation, or a silent block. But even if it is 3 or 4 seconds until a stuttering person realizes that he is within a stuttering event, then it's also okay. The philosophy of Charles von Riper was it's not important that you finish a stuttering very quick. It is more important that you control your stuttering instead your stuttering controls you. So it might be that the pull-out takes about 3, 4, or 5 seconds. That's okay. It's not the time, but most of the person who stutter, they want to end their stuttering as quick as possible, and they recognize after 1 or 2 seconds that they are within a stuttering event. The next part of the pull-out is so-called freeze or freezing. That means as soon as a person who stutters recognizes that he is within a stuttering event, he has to stop in the first syllable of in the first sound of the syllable he stutters. For example, if a person stutters the word team, like t, then in the moment he recognizes that he is repeating the T with half of the vowel or so, then he has to freeze. He stands in the first sound of the syllable. If he stutters on the word answer, he freezes in the sound A. For example, and then he stops within the position of the A. But it's not only to stop within a stuttering event, it's not only to freeze in the moment of stuttering in the beginning of the syllable. Freezing has to be accompanied by a kind of mental command, because the patient has to tell himself that he has to give up the attempt to speak. He had to stop continuing the syllable. As I said before, our speech production system in the brain sends syllables after syllable to produce sentences. And these syllables are pre-programmed. So there is a tendency for patients within a stuttering event always to end, to produce the syllable until end. But it's important within the freezing, the second part of the pull-out, that the patient stops, freezes, but also says himself, give up the attempt to end the syllable to go on speaking. And sometimes you see that patients, they freeze, but that their articulatory system is working and they are within syllable production. I'll give an imitation about that. For example, a patient says, I'm working with my t. You cannot hear anything, but you see that the articulatory movement goes on and on and on. That means the patient hasn't give himself the command, stop the attempt to speak. If we look, and you can see it on the picture, if we look on the tension that develops within a stuttering event, you can see that you have a normal articulatory speech tension, and in the moment of a stuttering event, the tension goes a bit up. And persons who stutter, who are very good desensitized, they say there is a little tension within a stuttering event, but that is not much. And what happens in the moment of freezing is that in the moment the patient gives up the attempt to continue the syllable. In the moment he gives up going on speaking, the tension caused by stuttering goes down passively. Within the second part of the pull-out, within the freezing part, it is not necessary for the patients to relax, staying in the first sound of a syllable. If he stops speaking, if he gives himself the command not to end the syllable, stay on the first sound of the syllable, the stuttering tension goes down passively without relaxation. So that means in our IMS modification techniques pull-out and in the preparatory set, we don't work with reducing tension in the moment of stuttering, reducing tension in the lips, in the jaw or in the tongue, because we have the experience that if patients are good in freezing and good in giving up the speech attempt, the stuttering tense will go down passively and they can start. So the third part of the pull-out is always that what the patients know. After a good freezing, after giving up to end the syllable, then they use a preparatory set and go out of the word. When we exercise the pull-out, then we start doing it by imitated pull-outs on word level. For example, the patient gets a word like London, and he has to imitate a pull-out like London. He has to stutter, maybe a repetition or prolongation, London. Then he freezes after stuttering, imitated stuttering for about 2 seconds, 1 or 2 seconds, and we advise him to give himself an internal command, stop the attempt to go on speaking, and then he produces a preparatory set. For the word cinema, it would be cinema. For the word country, it would be country. Or another prolongation, never mind would be never mind. So we have a short stuttering event, imitated stuttering event, a freezing pause of about 2 seconds, 1 or 2 seconds, and then we have a good quality of a preparatory set. Then we exercises on word level. We ask question and he has to give a pull-out, an imitated pull-out within a sentence. For example, what's the capital of Germany? And he says the capital of Germany is Berlin. Or what's the language spoken in Paris? The language spoken in Paris is French. And we do this a certain amount of items so that the patient knows what the 3 parts of the pull-outs. Even it's in imitation, he gets an impression from what we want to do within the pull-out. And then we start using pull-out in real stuttering events. And we are always glad if a person who stutters has still stuttering events within reading. I recommend to exercise pull-outs first with real stuttering in let the patients read a text, and within reading he can do the pull-out, or you can give him commands on what he has to do within a stuttering event. And after that, after training it within the therapy room, we go to have telephone speeches with foreign people, with friends. We are going outside therapy on the street. We are doing interviews, surveys about stuttering, going into shops, and then we train the pull-outs in real stuttering. In this time, we ask the patients not to use preparatory sets because we want to have a good training in pull-outs. And when the patients are good in pull-outs, we have a lot of exercises at the end of the modification phase, exercising preparatory sets and pull-outs. We will look if we have patients that focus more on preparatory sets, which is absolute okay, or if we have patients who focus more on pull-outs. And both is okay, but they have to exercise a certain amount of these techniques. So we are at the end of the explanation of the IMS modification techniques. So at the end, what's important, what's the take-home message of this video recording? First, I think it's necessary that a person who stutters has to prove if the Wingate-Weiner theory that stuttering occurs always on the vowel within a syllable is also visible in his own stuttering. I always tell my patients, just prove if the Wingate theory is what you feel in your stuttering events. And we want them to get an opinion about about if he thinks the Wingate-Weiner theory counts for him, if for him it's a theory that explains his stuttering. I saw hundreds of persons who stutters in my therapy life, and I never met a person with developmental stuttering that did not stutter on the syllable. There's one exception. We have two other forms of stuttering. The neurogenic stuttering after stroke or after insult or something. And these patients, neurogenic stuttering patients, they don't stutter after Wingate and Weiner theory. And also we have psychogenic stuttering, secondary psychogenic stuttering, which in adult people occurs after trauma, after depression, after anxiety disorders. And also psychogenic stuttering is different from developmental stuttering. So you will not find in these forms of neurogenic and psychogenic stuttering a proof for the Wingate-Weiner theory. But for developmental stuttering that exists in childhood, you have to see with your patients, you have to prove if this theory is right for you. Second important thing is when you do therapy with a patient, advise him, recommend voicing exercises, like only vowel exercises or consonant vowel transitions without words, without sentences. Just get a perception. A patient who stutters shall build up a good perception for his voice, his voicing during vowel production and his voicing during the transition from consonant to vowel. And at the end, you sometimes may have patients they tell you that the pull-out won't work because their tension is high and will not go down by freezing. And these patients mostly are right. It's because if your patient is not in a good desensitization status, if stuttering occurs, it is combined with anxiety, is combined with emotional stress, then you will have muscle tension in the larynx, in the articulatory system that is much higher than that in stuttering. So by freezing in the pull-out, a tension that is caused by fight or flight mechanism, by emotional stress, may not lead to end this stuttering with doing a good pull-out, because this kind of tension you cannot reduce by freezing, by giving up the attempt to speech. And so I hope these three things will be a help for your therapy, and I hope you benefited from, or you will benefit from this video. Thank you for giving me the time to explain the IMS modification techniques, and I hope you will have benefits for you and maybe for your patients. Thank you.